ahead and get started. Hopefully all of you can see on the screen right now some of the habitats of the Florida Keys, just to give you an idea of how this is going to work. As I go through here and I'm talking, I'm probably going to be asking you guys some questions along the way. I'm used to teaching in front of people, not virtually, so I do ask a lot of questions. If you want to answer a question, use the chat box, just like you guys are doing right now to introduce yourselves. You're doing a great job with that, and I appreciate it. I'll be watching that chat box. If you want to ask a question, the best way to do that would be using the Q&A feature. Write your question in there, and then I'm going to save that for the end. I'll go through, hopefully, most or all of those questions at the end, okay? So let's get started. Again, for those of you that didn't hear, my name is Sarah. I am the Director of Education at a facility called Marine Lab. So Marine Lab's in Key Largo, which is the northernmost island in the Florida Keys. So if you look at my map here, this is the bottom of Florida. And then there's all these islands just south of Miami. That's the Florida Keys. Where the star is, that's Key Largo. So we're the northernmost island in the island chain of the Florida Keys. And that's where Marine Lab is. That's where I live. That's where I work. Marine Lab is set up for student groups to be able to come and stay with us. So we have dorms and a cafeteria and a fleet of boats and labs and a classroom and that kind of thing. But generally, do you see the picture on the screen? That's what I'm used to teaching. That's my normal classroom. So this is a little bit new and different for me, but I'm going to try to bring a little taste of that classroom to you right now, this afternoon. Okay, so it's almost like you're sitting out there in the sunny water of the Florida Keys. All right, so what I want to do today is kind of just introduce some of the habitats that make up our waters and some of the animals you can expect to see in the waters here. It's not all coral reef, okay? That's definitely what we're famous for, and we'll definitely be talking about the coral reef along the way. But I want to make sure you have a little understanding of some of the other habitats that are in the water here, because they're just as important, okay? To get to the reef here in the Florida Keys, you have to jump on a boat and head offshore, a few miles offshore, to see the coral. So if you look at my little drawing here, this is the land. Then we start moving to the water, and you go further and further out to get to the beautiful coral reef. But along the way, there are some other habitats that are really cool. The first marine habitat, so the first habitat that touches the water, are these trees called mangroves, okay? Mangroves, they are trees, but they're pretty unique and special trees because they're able to live with their roots in salt water, okay? And they have all kinds of adaptations that allow them to do that. But a pretty unique habitat. The picture on the left, you can see some of the Marine Lab boats with teachers and students out there exploring our mangroves. We like to explore the mangroves from the boats, but then, of course, we jump in the water and we explore the mangroves from the water while snorkeling. And that's what you're seeing in the picture on the right. Lots of fish, all these branches hanging down. Those are the roots of the mangroves. And the roots are generally covered in all kinds of life, okay? Now, moving from the mangroves, if you start driving your boat a little bit further, then you get to our next marine habitat, and that is our seagrasses. And as you can see from my video over here, seagrass habitat is much more than just a bunch of grass, okay? It's a really, really important habitat. And there's all kinds of cool animals to see in the seagrasses, like these manatees that you see here. How cute is that? We saw that these manatees, this video was taken when we were snorkeling with a bunch of students, okay? There's so many animals out there living in these habitats, these inshore habitats that are not the reef, but connected to the reef, okay? So we go from the mangroves to the seagrasses, and then of course, to our famous coral reefs. And the coral reefs are just as cool and as amazing as everything you've heard. Okay, if you've gotten to snorkel at a reef before, lucky you. If you haven't, they really are just as beautiful as you see in the movies, that blue, clear water, and just so much life out there. But something that's really important to us at Marine Lab is for our students to understand and appreciate not only the coral reefs, but also the other marine habitats, the seagrasses and the mangroves, because all three of these habitats are very closely connected. So what that means is all of the students that come to Marine Lab, they don't only snorkel at the coral reef, which we definitely take them there, don't you worry, okay? They definitely go to the reef, but they also snorkel in these inshore habitats, the mangroves, like what you see over here, and then the seagrasses, okay? Now, here's the big question, why? And this is what happens. All these students come into Marine Lab and they're like, why are you taking us to the seagrasses? We just want to go to the coral reef. That's where all of the cool stuff is. And there is a lot of cool stuff at the coral reef, but there's a lot of cool stuff in the seagrasses and the mangroves. And not only that, these habitats, the seagrasses and the mangroves, are really important. Now, if you got the worksheet associated with this lesson, I think the first question on there, it says to list some of the reasons why seagrasses and mangroves are important. And that's what we're going to go over right now. If you don't have the worksheet, don't even worry about it. So what I'm going to ask you guys, why do you think seagrasses and mangroves are important? Look at this picture, because I think Mr. Manatee is going to give some hints to you. Look at this picture, and I want you to type in the chat box. Why do you think seagrasses and mangroves are important? What do they do? What's their role? I'm going to give you a few seconds. You can write it on your worksheet. You can write your answers in the chat box. Excellent. I'm seeing some really, really good answers. Good. So people are writing they provide food, they're a shelter, they're a habitat, food, home, they're eaten. Manatees eat the grass. Very good, you guys. Excellent. Lots of good answers from all over the place. Very good. So we're going to go over some of the reasons. First of all, just like the manatee is doing here, they're a food source. The seagrasses are a food source, and our mangroves, those leaves drop down from the trees, and they're a food source, not only to manatees, but to all kinds of animals are chowing down. Our herbivores love to feed on the seagrasses and the mangroves. So that's just one reason why our seagrasses and mangroves are so important. Now, to figure out another reason, and a lot of you have already told me this, but to kind of play a little game, I want you to look at this picture. And again, if you have the worksheet, this picture is on there. And what you can do if you have the worksheet is you can circle any animals that you see in this picture, okay? If you don't have the worksheet, just look at this picture and see if you can spot anything. If you do spot an animal, I want you to type it in the chat box. Now, here's the thing. The seagrass habitat is different from the reef. When you snorkel at the reef, all of these animals are swimming in front of you, and you see all of these really big animals. At the seagrasses, part of the fun is you need to look really, really closely to find a lot of these animals. So take a moment and see if you can spot any of the animals in this picture. Seeing some good answers. A snail, good. Urchin, very good. Aptasia, it's actually not an anemone, but close. Seeing some good answers. I'm going to give another second. And this is what it's like snorkeling the seagrasses. You really have to be looking carefully and looking closely to spot a lot of these animals. Lower left-hand corner. Good, you guys. All right, let me show you my circles. This is what I found, okay? We have our snail. A lot of you spotted that one, a little hermit crab. This one is a seagrass flower here. This is a turtle grass anemone up top. The urchin, a lot of you spotted that one. A little wormy, sea squirts or tunicates, if you've heard of that. And then one of our favorites, a seahorse. So even a fish was in this picture. And this is what it's like when you snorkel in the seagrasses. So many times students jump in the water and they're like, there's nothing there. And then we jump in and we're like, look at this, look at this. You really have to look closely to recognize all of the animals that really live in the seagrasses and the mangroves as well. So these inshore habitats are, the seagrasses and the mangroves are a really important home to a lot of these animals. Okay, you guys did a good job with that, so I think you deserve to get to see some alive animals. I was out, there's my foot for you. I was out snorkeling this morning. Let me see if I can figure this out. Bear with me with my technology, you guys. Okay. I went out to the seagrasses, the mangroves this morning. Tried to find some cool critters for you. We'll start with these. These guys are sea lettuce slugs. So soft-bodied animals. If you look really closely, you can see these long, they're kind of like antennae. Those are rhinophores. Rhino meaning nose, so they almost smell the water, taste the water to see where they are. They have all of these cute little flappies all along their back. Those are important for camouflage, but they're also important because these guys are able to spread those little ruffles out and expose their skin to the sunlight. And that's because these animals are actually able to photosynthesize, which is pretty unique, pretty cool. All right, some more that are closely related to those slugs. Hard to see too well, but on the right there is a little snail. On the left are scallops. So the snail has that one shell that it actually makes. The scallops have the two shells, okay? Those are animals. There's a soft, squishy body inside of those shells. The scallops can move. They're being a little lazy right now. That snail that you see, that thing sticking out, that's a siphon. So it kind of sucks in that water to figure out where it is and what's going on, basically. Let me see what happens. Sometimes they like to show off, and you can kind of see that soft body, that siphon's coming out. I flipped him upside down, so he's stressing out a little bit, but you can see that soft body coming out. The siphon's like, where am I? What's happening? And then he's able to flip himself back over. So you can see the snail there with the one shell. Scallop has two shells. The slug trying to make a run for it doesn't have any shells at all. And then got these guys. Any guess on what this is? This junk here, this is just a bunch of algae, but there's a little friend hanging underneath the algae. I wanted to put that algae in just because these guys like to be covered. Good, a lot of you guys are guessing these are brittle stars. So the brittle stars, closely related to a sea star, right? But they're called brittle stars because they release their arms a lot more readily than a sea star. So a sea star, it can regenerate its arms, okay? But a brittle star, kind of like a lizard, if it's feeling scared, it'll just release that arm, and then it'll be able to run away because the predator's like, ah, what's going on? There's a weird arm moving all over the place. And the brittle stars can move a lot faster than sea stars can as well, if they want to. They kind of look like spiders or something. So these are brittle stars, closely related. And these, you guys, all you do, you jump in the seagrasses and the mangroves for a couple minutes, doesn't take a long time to find just a few critters just like this. If you spend a little bit more time, there's so many animals out there, okay? And that's something really cool about our seagrasses and mangroves that people overlook. It's a really important habitat to this whole array of animals. Okay. Let me see. Technology time. Let me see what I can do. Okay. Did it. So now we know that our seagrasses are an important food source. Okay. We know they're an important habitat, that there's a lot of small critters that like to hide in there that are really hard to spot. There's some larger critters like our brittle stars and the sea slugs that take a little looking, but it's pretty easy to find them. And there's even some bigger animals like our manatees, okay, that are going and chowing down and swimming around. So an important habitat. Now, we're going to play a little game to figure out some other reasons why our seagrasses are important. Now, this first one is just to practice, okay? This has nothing to do with our seagrasses, but basically, you guys are going to be scientists. You're going to observe the picture that I'm showing you, and then you're going to describe what is happening in the picture using evidence, okay? That's the important thing. Tell me what is going on in this picture using evidence. What's happening? This is our practice round. And then we'll get to the seagrasses. Good, you guys, excellent. People getting ready to go snorkeling. Kids getting ready to go snorkeling. That's it, you get the idea. So you're just gonna look at the picture, tell me what you think is going on using evidence rather than just randomly saying something. Okay, let's get to our seagrasses. So I want you to look at this picture and tell me what is going on in this picture. How does it relate to our seagrasses? And remember, we're talking about why seagrasses are important. So look at this picture and caption it. What is going on? Okay, someone's saying the seagrass is being eaten. Okay, someone's saying the more polluted the water is, the less seagrass. I could definitely see why you would think that from this photo. Ooh, okay, this is a good answer. The seagrass is changing the color of the water. Seagrasses are clearing the water. Okay, that's really what I'm looking for. Here's the deal. Very good. You guys are doing excellent with these captions. Very creative. Here's the thing. Without our seagrasses, without our mangroves, there would be no coral reef. And one of the most important things that the seagrasses and mangroves do is make the water really clear, okay? They kind of stabilize any sediment that's in the water column. They cling on to that sediment, and then the water going out to the reef is nice and clear. The other thing they're doing is absorbing nutrients, which we all think nutrients are good, and it's not that they're bad, but corals need low nutrients. So our seagrasses and mangroves, they help the water quality because they make it clear and they absorb nutrients. Okay, let's do one more. Let's caption. Look at this photo and tell me what you think is going on. Make some observations. How does it relate to seagrass and the importance of seagrass? Good, I'm seeing some good answers. People are writing life cycle, food web. Oh, good, someone's really nailing it, telling me how the juveniles live on the seagrass. Very good. Animals hiding in the seagrass, that is going on. Very good. So another reason our seagrasses and mangroves are really, really, really important is because they're a nursery habitat, okay? A nursery, just like our babies, we put in a nursery. The same thing is going on with these animals that live out at the coral reef. Most of the animals that live at the reef, when they're itty bitty cutie babies, they're living in the seagrasses and in the mangroves. Once they grow larger and stronger, then they head out to the coral reef. In the inshore habitats, there's not as many big scary predators. There's lots of good hiding spots. Okay, so our mangroves and seagrasses, good food source, good habitat, important for improving water quality. They're nursery habitat. Good, Anna. Anna's telling me that lemon sharks use mangroves as a nursery. Very good. Yeah, multiple species of sharks you can see. And that stuff you can see snorkeling too, which is awesome. Okay. Now, all of this inshore talk brings me to the coral reef, which of course is the star habitat that we have in the waters here in the Florida Keys. But now you guys understand how just as important those inshore habitats are. But I will say the coral reef is amazing. It really is that blue and that clear, and there's just so much to see. So let's talk corals quickly. You guys tell me, is coral an animal, a plant, or a mineral? What do we think? Type in your answer. An animal, a plant, or a mineral? What is coral? Good. Very good, you guys. Good, I'm seeing mostly correct answers here. Coral is most certainly an animal. Now, it's a unique animal because it's colonial, okay? So what you have one little tiny coral polyp, but it lives within this colony of a whole bunch of other polyps. But it is most certainly an animal. Now, people do get confused because there's a plant-like organism that lives inside of each and every coral polyp. And on top of that, the coral polyps are secreting limestone, which is a mineral. So it gets really confusing, but you guys mostly nailed it in that coral itself is an animal. It's definitely an animal. It just uses that algae inside of it to kind of help it along the way. Now, best thing about the coral reef is there's so much life there, so much diversity out at the coral reef. You guys tell me, if you were to jump in and go snorkeling at the coral reef, what do you expect to see? For those of you that have been lucky enough to snorkel at a reef before, what have you seen in the water there? Fishies. Lots of fish, good. Sharks, lucky. Life, so much life, good. Eels, soft corals and sponges. Swordfish, wow. Yay, I like that you guys are excited about the sponges. There's so many beautiful sponges. This is a sponge here, sponge over here. This is coral. This is coral too, a flexible coral here, flexible here. Turtles, barracuda, anemones, very cool, you guys. There is so much life to see out at the coral reef. Just want to show you some of just a couple videos of some really pretty fish that we have out there. This is our French angelfish here. The angelfish are chowing down on the sponges, one of their favorite food sources. Another fish, you may see it. They come in all shapes and sizes, let me tell you. This one here is a trumpet fish. Very odd shaped little fella. But it kind of makes sense because they're trying to blend in with these flexible corals surrounding them. So they have this unique shape to blend in with these other unique shapes. This is a trumpet fish that you're seeing here, surrounded by some flexible corals and some sponges. So pretty. And of course, some famous fish are sharks. Sharks are fish too. People are always so scared of sharks, but there's no reason for that. Sharks need to be scared of us. They're the ones that are really in danger. We're the predators. Good, very good, Lily. Our nurse shark. The nurse shark is by far the most common species of shark that we see on the reefs here in the Florida Keys. They're also the most docile species of shark in the whole entire world. So they're certainly not anything to fear. But just like all animals, we have to treat them with respect. Give them a little R-E-S-P-E-C-T and remember that we're in their home, right? We have to treat all of these animals with respect, always. Good, Deborah says they're scared because we kill them for food. Yeah, in some areas people are killing them for food. There's all these different reasons people are utilizing shark meat, but they need to be protected, just like every other fish in the water. Okay, and that brings me to this one. We need to talk a little bit about the threats to these habitats, because while they're really beautiful to go and look at, and we're so lucky that we do have beautiful reefs and beautiful seagrass beds here in the Florida Keys, our inshore habitats, the seagrasses, the mangroves, and the offshore habitats, like our corals, are facing many threats, okay? Just like habitats everywhere. So what I want you to do, and if you have the worksheet, you've got something that looks a little bit like this. It says threats at the top. I want you guys to tell me, what are some of the threats that you think the marine habitats here in the Florida Keys are facing? Okay, whether the seagrasses, the mangroves, the corals. Good, I'm seeing some good answers. Global warming, people are writing overfishing, pollution, humans, fertilizer. Good, you guys. Caleb is writing nets. Anna says coral bleaching. Kimberly says algae. Good, the overgrowth of algae, absolutely, outcompeting our corals. Species that aren't native. Yeah, we have all of these exotic species. People, Jasmine, you really nailed it with that. People are pretty much the biggest problem. Noise pollution, good. You guys are depressing me. This list is endless. You're absolutely right. I made my own list here. This is certainly not all inclusive. You guys are including a whole bunch of other ideas in your notes here. Fertilizer, good. Pesticides. But I did make my list of threats. And if you look at these threats, you're going to see some of them are natural, like disease is a natural threat. That's funny. Disease is a natural threat, okay? Corals get diseases just like any other animal can get a disease. But if you look at this list of threats, you're going to see that most of them, just like you guys pointed out, are man-made. It's things that people are doing, okay? Now, we've got a little bit of a depressing issue going on this slide, so I need to bring things up a notch, all right? So what we're going to do next is talk a little bit about the solutions, because it's not all depressing. There's a lot of really great work going on. I want you guys to take a moment, choose a threat, and decide on a solution. Tell me a solution to a threat. That's what I want to hear. Good, Deborah. Stop pollution. Use a trash can. It's just that easy. Very good. What else? Give me some more. Stop overfishing. We need rules for fishing. Good. Don't throw plastic in the water. Good. Educate humans. Good. It's just that easy. It doesn't always have to be all difficult. Good, Rachel. Ride your bike. I love that, Rach. Protect the animals. Good. You guys got the idea. Very good. Now, just like my list of threats is not all inclusive, neither is my list of solutions. There are so many different things that we can be doing to help these marine habitats, okay? Now, here's the question for you. You're not all here in the Florida Keys. Most of you, as you've told me, are all over the place right now. Okay, so riddle me this. I want you to answer this. Do your actions at home, no matter where you are you affecting the health of the Florida Keys marine habitats? Good. You guys got it. Yeah, of course you are. Because here's the thing, all of our waters are connected. So even just here in the United States, everywhere where you see these color blockings, the watershed goes into the Mississippi River, which runs right into the Gulf of Mexico. Here's Florida. These little dots down here, those are the Florida Keys. So anything that runs into the Gulf of Mexico, of course, is going to affect the water in the Florida Keys. But here's the thing, it gets bigger than that because all of our waters are connected. So no matter where you are, even if you're on the other side of the world, your actions can affect what is going on in the waters here, because all of the oceans, all of our watersheds are connected in one way or the other. So that brings me to my final question. What can you do? First of all, I'm going to run through some very simple things. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and don't forget the fourth R, refuse. You can always say no, or no thank you, I guess is a bit more polite, okay? You don't need that straw, right? Ride your bike, someone talked about that one. That's a really good one. If you look closely at this picture, you guys, there's a really cute dog in the milk crate. He's mine. Educate yourself. That's really important. Sometimes just learning can go a long way. And then once you do learn about something and understand, tell others, let them know. Good, Bridget wrote, you can use a metal straw. That's important. If you see someone else using plastic, be like, hey, have you ever tried a metal straw? Really easy. And then we don't have to worry about the plastic. It's just that easy. And you can get involved no matter where you are. There's all kinds of events going on, whether it's here in the Florida Keys, we host cleanups in the water, but even if you are completely inland, if you're participating in any kind of cleanup, we know that it then can affect the waters here in the Florida Keys. And really just getting involved in any kind of citizen science, no matter where you are, that can play a part in helping to conserve the waters here. Any other ideas? Now I'm already seeing you guys writing all kinds of cool ideas. Clean up the beaches, stop using so much glass. Kimberly says to clean the neighborhood. Do a cleanup once the beaches reopen, excellent. Plastic, good. There's so many great ways to avoid plastic, you guys. So many other options. Someone wrote, get a hydro flask. That's a great, easy option. Excellent. Very good. Reusable water bottles, reusable grocery bags. Choose reef safe sunblock. Yeah, this is all easy stuff that doesn't take too much. It's anyone can do it. Use ice straws. Good. Okay, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that you guys have asked me. My favorite type of coral. So Marissa asked me what my favorite type of coral is. I would say probably the branching corals, like the elkhorn and the staghorn coral. And maybe that's just because there's not a lot of them left. And so when I see them, they make me so happy. Someone asked how many animals live in the seagrass. So we're talking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of species, you guys. So many different species. Marissa asked me, are they a type of nudibranch? I think she's probably referring to those sea slugs. Those green sea slugs that I was showing off to you guys are closely related to nudibranchs, but they're not. So nudibranchs breathe through little fringes on their back, whereas a sea slug, like those green things I was showing you, they actually breathe through their skin. So just a little bit different. Annika asked, do the brittle star's arms move even after being released? Yes, they do. Just like a lizard's tail, it kind of wiggles around, and they do that to freak out the predators, basically. Kristen asked if animals live in the mangroves. Absolutely. You get up really close to those roots, and you're going to see so many animals. Sometimes you have to look closely, like in the seagrass beds, but they're definitely there. Okay, I only got a couple more minutes. I want to answer a few more of these questions. Are there any dangerous aspects of the coral reef? There are no dangers at the reef as long as you treat the habitat respectfully, then there's nothing to fear. You just have to remember you're in a habitat where people don't necessarily belong. We're lucky that we get to go there. Someone asked if you're able to pay to go snorkeling in the coral reefs there. Yeah, you are. There's all kinds of snorkel boats. Anna wants to be a microbiologist when she grows up. That is cool. Okay, Annika asked why the nurse shark was given that name. That's a good question. And the reason is because of how they feed. Most species of sharks, they chomp down to feed. A nurse shark is a suction feeder. It sucks up its food, and that sucking motion is like a baby nursing on its mama. Okay, my last question I'm going to answer is, what is your favorite marine animal? And you guys may think this is boring, but my favorite animal that lives in the ocean is a sponge. They're the coolest animals around. They're just a whole bunch of cells. They don't have any organized tissues or organs at all. They've been used to cure cancer because they have all of these cool chemicals associated with them. You could put a sponge in a blender, whip it up, turn it off. Not only will the sponge still be alive, but it will re-aggregate. It will go back together. Any animal that's able to sit and not move at all and just sit there and look pretty like a sponge generally has really cool defense mechanisms, and sponges are definitely a good example of that. And with that, you guys, I think I'm going to sign off. I had such a fun time doing this with you guys. I hope that you had fun as well. We are going to get a recording of this video, and we're going to post that on Marine Lab's virtual site. Follow us on all of our social media. We're going to post all of the virtual stuff that we're doing, and I really hope that you guys can make it to Marine Lab. For my Marine Labbers, thanks for joining us. I love seeing familiar names. Those of you that haven't heard of us, look us up, because maybe you'll be able to come join us next year. Thank you, guys. This is Sarah from Marine Lab in Key Largo, signing off. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining today.